so much for your patience. We really do appreciate it. After some technical difficulties appeared on stage, we resolved those issues, and now we'll be working to get our players back on stage and get into the action. So we look forward to seeing that with you. At the end of the day, we're here to see some Fortnite, and that's what we're going to see. As we prepare, though, as the players start to come in and whatnot, we're going to take a couple moments just to highlight just a few duos. Wanted to highlight here Reason and Vidil, a duo that we are very excited to see compete here on stage. There's some Reason fans out there.
Yeah.
A lot of them. Yeah, that's the joke. There's a lot of me included.
I mean, there's a reason to like Reason, and when you look at the run that they've had this year, getting 7th, 4th, and 5th from Majors 1, 2, and 3 respectively. I mean, it's crazy talking about the consistency that all of these duos have brought here today, and to see them being competing together. I am so excited to watch Reason and Vidil.
Yeah, really interested to see how these guys can do. Of course, they're landing at the Doom's Castle towards the northeast side of the map. They have a couple of teams there as well, so they're not going to be uncontested there. But this is a team throughout the whole year have performed really well. As you mentioned, Nick Kelly, they had a really nice year with a 7th, 4th, and a 6th. Really, really consistent placements, and they're able just to find really solid games when it matters. They're able to get into that situation of endgame, finding eliminations. It just seems like whenever you look at the leaderboard at the end of a tournament, it's like, oh yeah, Reason and Vidil, they're in 5th. How did they get there? We haven't really seen too much of them, but they sneak their way up, and I hope they can do that this weekend.
And you talk about them being contested, although the north side of Doom Castle, they're not necessarily contested. They kind of have that north side to themselves. They're going to have that siphon point to themselves. They do have 2 sets of duos that are contesting to the south and to the north, which honestly sounds like the perfect storm for them to third-party these other duos, especially that duo that's landing north of them, which there isn't much to go for there. I can imagine Reason and Vidil focusing that duo to get some of those Storm Surge tags.
Yeah, and I mentioned it earlier as well, Booga coming in from that west side, they could have to deal with that situation as well. I mean, that drop spot is it's such a big drop spot, so many different little nooks and crannies where you can sort of hide and try and sneak around. I think we expect to see a little bit more of elongated fights happening there from teams that are coming on in, and I love that. I mean, this is the start of the show right here. This Peely, we've been looking at him. I love it. I love it. He's been doing some emos randomly. I don't know if he's doing it for anyone or he just naturally does them. He's just pulling out emos.
He's doing it for everyone.
He's doing it for everyone in the arena,
right? Peely right now. This Peely is giving us all the energy we have, and hopefully the energy to the players as well. As you can see, they are starting to come back into the stage, get onto their setups, and as we get ready to get into game number 1.
That's right. We are just so thankful for you guys, the fans. We really do appreciate your patience. We are sorry about that, but we'll be getting back into game very, very shortly. I wanted to also talk about Bryson Bolts. When the players came out and Bryson Bolts came out, the arena went kind of crazy, and it's a little unexpected, because I don't want to say like, hey, there's duos here that don't have fans. It's just like, sometimes the arena will be like, Bryson Bolts are like, rah! I'm like, yo, you guys are, what's going on? I'm down.
I mean, they've had this interesting dialogue all year long where they're like, oh, who's the underdogs? A lot of people ask, and a lot of people say Bryson Bolts, but again, they aren't necessarily underdogs. In Major 2, they got 6th place. In Major 3, they got 8th place. And similar to what we saw from Batman, Booga, and Rapid, they got 8th place by only playing 11 out of 12 games. Who knows where they would have been if they had all 12 games?
I remember last year Globals as well, Bryson Chubbs, they were a team that took us by surprise. They did so well. I think they won a couple of games as well on the Grand Finals day. It was one of those where it's like, where did these guys come from? But that's what this global championship stage can do. It can put you on a little pedestal. It can be like, look at me, I am a professional, and I'm a very good professional player at that. And I think that's what I look at when I'm looking at this duo. This is a duo that have that experience of doing well, Bryce in particular. So I'm intrigued as to what they can do, particularly with their drop spot now. They're wanting that forecast tower. We broke it down earlier on. Vico and Flixie are trying to not let them have it, but they're more landing towards the forecast tower. So what we've seen, some teams like basing up on that hill, trying to stop Vico and Flixie trying to come over. I'm intrigued because we haven't seen Vico and Flixie have too many problems going for that. So I'm intrigued as to what they're going to bring.
Yeah, it's a dump and house and split, and they kind of have this little lake where there's a crash plane. They get tons of metal from it, and then they get to go to that quick rotation over to the forecast tower. Honestly, it's a bit of an underrated split, and I understand why Bryson Bolts have been there all year long.
That's what we need, right? Is another fight for another forecast tower. The observers are going to just be in just a handful of spots across the map. Is there a forecast tower? Yes. We're going to go hang out there. Another duo here to highlight is Janice. It's Pixie, another EU duo. And of course, I mean, Janice, I mean, come on, fans of Fortnite, if you've watched, you've been following, you know this guy's incredible.
I mean, going all the way back to 2020, winning the solo invitational of Janice, and then Pixie having a great performance in the Globals last year with Cheatin'.
Yeah, really, really great. I mean, that was a duo where we were like another one of those teams where these guys just came out of nowhere. It seemed like they'd been performing well going up to that, but now Pixie was one of those players that was kind of a hot commodity, if you like, going into this last major of the chapter, because he was performing very, very well. So many different players and so many different players in EU, very veteran players as well. We're looking at Pixie and thinking this could be potentially a good duo partner for me, an up-and-coming player, picked up now, of course, by Janice. Uncontested red line rig. Interested to see what they can do. I think this is another team where, yes, it says they're uncontested. If you're one of those teams, Kazi and Aspect, for example, maybe they might look to land on them. But the experience of Janice and, of course, Pixie being such an important player within this duo, they performed very, very well in Major number 3 where they got 8. So I'm interested to see what they can bring here.
You bring up the fact that, like, you know, they kind of look out and go, hey, this is an opportunity. But that was kind of what this year of Fortnite was, right? Yeah. So much of the landscape changed after Global Championships last year, right? It was kind of like, yeah, we're kind of going back to LAN, we're kind of doing things, but once we got there, it was like, okay, this is different, right? Like, now that we're here, next year has to be different. And so many of these duos just looked across the board and were like, maybe I should pick up that duo, I should pick up this duo. Like, it's been a crazy year.
I mean, I always say that there is only one thing you can predict in Fortnite, is that it is unpredictable, regardless of if that's the map changing, the meta changing, duos literally changing between qualifiers and semifinals. We really don't know what's going to happen until the games start.
And what I love about these global events is no matter what happened in all the majors, you know, as you mentioned, different metas, different teammates potentially, it all doesn't really matter, because this is right where it all goes down. These next 12 games are going to be absolutely electric. And I can't wait to get into it.
That's right. We've got another duo here to talk about Epic Whale and Muzz. I mean, you kind of highlighted them at the start of the show there, Muzz being one of the first duos to kind of win in multiple regions, and Epic Whale, I mean, when we had NA West, when it was NA West and NA East, he just couldn't stop winning. He didn't know how to, like, stop winning.
Yeah, it's funny because I was literally just talking about how duos will split up between qualifiers and semifinals, and I literally was referencing Muzz and Epic Whale right there. They actually had different duos getting into the qualifiers, and then once we hit the semifinals, because both of them did qualify, they were able to switch duos because there was a little caveat in the rules there, and obviously it worked out well in their favor, finally punching their ticket into the Global Championships. And beyond Epic Whale being, you know, the 5X, however many X's he has in his name, regardless of the back-to-back-to-back, regardless of the Gamers 8, looking back all the way to the World Cup where he got 3rd place, he has been doing it for so long. And then of course Muzz, the powerhouse from OCE, now representing North America. This is definitely a duo to look out for.
I love watching Muzz play. He's such an impressive player to watch. Some of the things that he can do, the mechanical ability of Muzz is second to none. And I was speaking to him the other day in the hotel. I was saying, you know, you feeling confident? How's things with Epic Whale? He said, yeah, I'm absolutely confident in Epic Whale. It's all about me. Can I make sure that I'm going to play my best game? He's a little bit nervous that he might get awareness checked, but he said if I don't get awareness checked, if I'm playing my game to the level I know I can play it at, I think he's feeling like he's going to be successful, and there's no reason why not.
I love that. Self-reflection, though. A lot of the times, these players will kind of look to outside sources as to what's going wrong. Oh, well, it was this duo that focused us. Oh, it was Greece over here. But players that can look inwardly and understand where they could have gone better, not necessarily what went wrong, but what they could have done differently, that's what makes or breaks these champions.
Yeah, that's a mark of maturity, right? For someone like Muzz, again, like you said, to win multiple times, that's how he got that far, right? To be able to stop and go, okay, now what could have I done better? Because it's very easy to point fingers and go, yeah, well, my duo or this thing or this pod of POY or this thing got removed or whatever. But to stop and go, no, what can I do to really minimize that, like, almost RNG we experience?
Yeah, and there is definitely a level of RNG. Obviously, the most notorious is where is that zone going to pull? And if we have some teams landing on the south and the zone pulls to the north, well, how are we going to be able to handle that? What rotations are we going to be prioritizing? What teams can we potentially face against? Being able to it's what these Fortnite players are able to do with how much goes into it is honestly uncomparable even to some of the other bigger esports out there.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, you mentioned the zones, particularly now in the low to no mobility meta, particularly that sort of 8th zone, those later stage zones, maybe not in endgame, but it's those rotations where you have a maximum pole zone. It's those teams that have the forecast tower. It's those teams that have got their storm surge early. It's those teams that aren't trying to fight on the rotates. They're the teams that are going to try and put themselves in the best position and find the most success, but it's so difficult to do. It's so easy, it's so much easier said than done. Just be like, oh yeah, just go front side, go around teams, don't get shot, don't go into another team, don't box fight. But it's so difficult to do in practice because there's so many different things going on in your head. Oh, we need a bit of damage, let's hop in there. Maybe that's not the best decision to make. So the low mobility meta really shakes things up. I'm interested to see how the players can see how they do the affection of that, I should say.
Yeah, I love that balance, right? Kind of striking, okay, we're starting the game, let's say we're uncontested, great. We know we have to hit 555 materials, right? Wood, brick, metal.
Yeah.
We have to go and we have to get our loot. What weapons are we doing? What's our surge strategy? Now it's zone 1. We got to start getting in position. We are low on surge. Surge is on. What tags are we getting? Oh no, someone's boxing on us. It's all just so dynamic moment to moment.
And what's been so exciting with this season is that usually when we see loadouts from major to major, it's the same weapons in everyone's loadout.
Yep.
But this major, between the shotguns that we have, the ARs that we have, the pistols as well.
Yes.
There's a lot of variety, actually.
Yeah, there is lots of different loadouts. He spoke about Thomas HD early on with that Monarch pistol, expecting some big damage coming out of him this weekend. There's just so many different varieties. Even the new shotguns, of course, you mentioned. Lots of different ways that teams can not have necessarily just one best shotgun, not one best assault rifle. Lots of ways to express yourself in the game. Are you more of a close box-to-box player? Do you like to play a little bit further away when you're taking fights? And that's what I'm interested to see a lot of our teams doing. How can they show their identity this weekend, applying themselves in the new strategy and the new season?
Do you guys feel that, like, in that moment to moment, right? So let's say we're going to have this surge strategy. We're going to need this loadout. Does that change moment to moment? Does that change zone to zone?
Yes, 100%. Obviously, you need those long-range tags. You're going to go for the ARs, having to get those storm surge tags, of course. But once you get closer, once you get to the end game, you're going to go fighting box to box. You want to make sure that you have your favorite shotgun. And really, depending on the player, you might see Sovereign, you might see the Gatekeeper, or you might see that Hammer Pump.
Yeah, or even those dual-wield SMGs. Those things are absolutely crazy. I think a lot of teams, a lot of players will be looking to pick those up towards the later stage of the game. When everyone's a little bit closer, you don't necessarily need that range of the assault rifles, of course. It seems like the burst is the most common one for the players that are trying to get the storm surge tags. It's not quite as good in box, so expect to see a lot of teams trying to switch that up going into the late game.
Is there maybe a weapon or two or an item or anything that, you know, if these off-spawn situations don't happen, oh, you know what? Oh, guys, I'm getting word. I'm getting word. It is that time. Once again, from the bottom of our hearts, we are so thankful for your patience. That's right. It's game time. Let's send it up to our casters for game number 1. When you see us, we want to see W's because we're ready. It looks like the game is just about to kick off here. Let's jump into match number 1. Fort Worth, here we have it. We are kicking things off here at the FNCS Global Championships. And of course, we know what is in store for us.
Already getting a close-up pay-per-view of what's taking place here with Queasy and Thomas. And you have to keep in mind, Duke's Sphinx not too far from this location here at Research Rock. Brawler's Battleground, I think, providing a decent opportunity for a little bit of early clashing, potentially.
We'll talk about those early clashes. We already know what's going to happen here. It's Malibuca Murstache versus the Power Alex, the Power Worthy. First tags are going to go to Carmine Corpse Murstache, though.
Yeah, that was a big shot implemented there by Murstache. It's going to provide a lot of pressure as well, just enough for him to be able to group with Malibuca. They've already found a Flowberry Fizz. They're getting the shield online. Worthy and Alex know that they've got to be fast on these Avengers chests.
Yeah, and this is not the only contested team, right? There are going to be other fights happening here. Play close attention to what's going to go down, though. Power Alex and Worthy do have a little bit of a disadvantage here, playing the low ground as the standoff starts to develop. Meanwhile, a quad contested drop spot for Peterbot and Boyo, who have control of their side, where Trashy and Threat seem to be in a little bit of a head-to-head.
Well, hold that thought, though, because for a moment it seemed as if we were going to, potentially be dealing with Kazian aspect here, but I don't see them anywhere in sight, NDF. I think right now, Swizzy, Yapko, they're just trying to do what they can to prevent themselves from being the victims of Trashy and Threats currently, but also keep in mind what Peterbot was saying earlier on. That bot is always going to be ours. Emma Frost's Medallion and that Mythic Striker Burst, that's everything that they're after, and he's already collected it.
Wow, so Peterbot and Boyo already off to a great start here. Clearly, they have the advantage. Clearly, they even have the respect of the teams landing here not to step center foot into their location.
It's only a matter of time, though. As soon as that reveal medallion actually procs, there's going to be 15 seconds that Swizzy, Yapko, Threats, Trashy, they're all going to be marked here at the raft. So escaping might not be the solution. They're going to have to fight their way out of this.
We've seen the interviews, we've seen, you know, Trashy and Threat's perspective on this. They already know that they're gonna have a problem with Swizzy and Japko, and that Peterbot and Boyo will just be waiting for their opportunity as the time continues to tick on. You can see they're doing just that, ready to possibly pounce here in the coming moments. But Vino and Clicks, y'all, are here, and they are indeed contested.
The moment these names lit up on screen, you can just hear the crowd going crazy. I mean, a clear fan favorite for good reason. And I think the most incredible part about it is just listening to Clicks talk about the fact, hey, we just found out a couple days ago, yeah, we are going to be contested. But for Damo and Resigns, you have to also factor in, this is familiarity for them. Sandy Steps has been their home as well.
Yeah, and this is a lot of respect coming from both sides. Clicks and Vino, of course, just feeling out the playing field right now, playing the outskirts, meaning that no team can, you know, rotate from behind them, whereas Resigns and Damo are content with their side of the map. But Middle Eastern teams are on the set here. Haman and Cal Gamer now up against the likes of CZB and Nathan, who's underneath them.
And CZB and Nathan, I think, definitely one of those teams that I think a lot of people would view as that potential underdog story. But the interesting aspect is knowing that they are going to be contested here at Grand Glacier. And what we're seeing a lot of right now, the players that are just having these small, mild interruptions to their traditional loot paths, and what kind of dominoes effect that might have after the fact.
And also, just look at how many players are alive. This is about as intense as it can get when there's this much money on the line, when you have this much time, right, to wait, sit, contemplate your strategy. What are you gonna do when the call comes? You have to answer it. Chapentini here, pushing the pressure, pushing the conversation right now. Ager's not looking good for him. He's gonna be the first to fall, and that's one NA team down.
Bit of a tragic start there for Rise and Agers, but their downfall is Teeny and Chaps Uprising. Bound to be super happy with the elimination damage they did just secured there. Surge tags are always going to be so crucial. And in a lobby like this, MDF, we know that we have so many heavy power hitter teams. That's going to be insane to think about. You have to connect on every single shot.
Well, here's someone who's going to do just that. Thomas HD doing an excellent job holding his high ground. He's got the angle down on the teams there in the distance. I saw Gone and Quanti as well, still at Mount Olympus. We know that they have that drop spot, not for free, but again, that southern side is theirs at the moment. Queasy and Thomas HD are going to be happy with these tags, right? This is the bigger picture of hyper-competitive Fortnite. It just doesn't get more difficult than this. Clearly, we have a lot to talk about when it comes down to Cammy and Seti. This is a team that is a favorite and a favorite for a reason, as is Vico and Flixie, some of Europeans' strongest coming up, and I dare to say part of the new era.
Sparks already started to fly, though. Vico trying to see if he can get an overhead view onto Virgo and Shadow. A little bit of a wraparound. Virgo now trying to see if he can switch, but Shadow, he's left too exposed. Vico, Flixie, they take the opportunity. They try to collapse. A nice connection, but at the same time, Shadow still standing. Virgo knows it's time to bail. And they're going to force themselves into a disengage, but Flixie, he's not interested in that. Flixie wants more.
Oh, yeah, this is a storybook kind of conversation right here. This is something that we expect it to happen. If you're going to go up against the likes of Flixie and Vico's pathing, you just have to get out of the way or get ran down. And Virgo and Shadow are going to be another NA team to fall here to the hands of a European juggernaut. And, you know, this is, again, I have an inkling just a start for Flixie and Vico.
Hey, there's a big reason why these guys have Reckless Railways uncontested. You do not want to have to deal with some of those up-close and personal box fights early on, but Paper, Victor, B, they've also found themselves in a little bit of skirmish here. Clone, alongside Kremzu, trying to make sure, but they've got to be careful. Look at the stealth opportunity here. Gone and Quanti, absolute ninjas.
They're getting really close here. A lot of danger lurking nearby, and Brazil, of course, known for what they're capable of when it comes down to jumping in and playing aggressive, and they do just that. But no, the ambush was unsuccessful. Paper, oh, so close, escapes by the skin of his teeth. Talking about Brazilian teams sneaking up. It's Persa and Ed also on the prowl right now.
Everybody just crouch walking up to all of the commotion that this box fight is bringing just outside northwest side of Mount Olympus here. And the most important aspect though, Paper, you gotta respect that 180 turnaround, throws up the middle wall, makes sure to protect himself. But Persa, they've now found an opening, but it's gonna be cut short. Victor V, Paper, all these teams starting to congest here, and a surge base on top to boot.
Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Persa and Ed are recognizing we have to get in a fight. Like, whether we want to or not, Storm Surge is going to become an issue. And if you're unfamiliar what that means, when there's a certain amount of players alive, the game is going to force you to fight other teams. Damage will start to rain in the visual of lightning bolts and take you out the game if you're not being active.
The real thorn in the side right now, though, for Victor V and Paper is it's evident that they want to get inside of that bunker. Clone and Kremsu, though, they are doing everything in their power to prevent anyone else. They might find themselves trapped at the bottom of it for a time being, though, because keep in mind, teams do like to hold whenever they find duos inside of that bunker.
Quanti and Gone also setting up, looking back inwards, trying to see what's going to happen here. Meanwhile, Victor V and Paper really wearing the results of this drawn-out fight on their loadout right here. You can see ammunition starting to run low, builds even shorter than that. It's only going to be a matter of time before this starts to go super south, so if Paper and Victor V can't step up and finish this fight soon, it's not going to be good.
Yeah, but at this point, they have to find closure. There's no opportunity to retreat. You are all in at this stage. They've invested too much time, and they know that they need more surge tag damage as well. Clone, Kremsu, more than content to sit this one out, though, because the weapon bunker is sounding, and they're going to have the advantage once it opens.
Yeah, if they get to jump down there first and, of course, secure the goods, there's going to be a lot of loot that's going to be given out to Clone here shortly, but Paper and Victor V don't want that to happen. You can see how much more urgency, right, is put behind these shots now as they're trying to push in.
Clone, Kremsu, the opening has arrived here, but Victor V, Paper, they're still, I don't want to call it hesitant, but definitely wary of what awaits them when they try to catch Clone and Kremsu exiting that bunker. Malabuka Merstash, though, they've encountered some early difficulties here, it seems like, at Restored Reels. Last we checked in, they were getting a couple of decent tags onto Alex and Worthy, but now, knowing that Malabuka is in that solo position, it's going to be tough to make his way towards a reboot van with this much traffic around him.
Yeah, undoubtedly. Look at Kanata and Cooper, though, on the move right now, trying to continue to find their way not only to the new zone, but play for this high ground, right? Looking for tags off in the distance, and very different strategy for Kanata and Cooper, where we see a lot of those other duos looking to get box-to-box fight, you know, very close quarter. They're keeping their distance almost exclusively now from other duos and other paths of duos.
But I really love this positional check, though, from Kanata and Cooper, because they've taken over a hill just northwest of Restored Reels, and they know all those duos that are far west on the map, far north, they're going to have to rotate through Cooper and Kanata. Kanata is notorious for setting up surge bases in positions where you have ample opportunity to deal some damage to other teams.
Oh, look at this. This is the clash we all expected. Vino and Clix versus Oceania's Damo there, who just rotated by. They're going to be the first to get a couple of tags and start to get the lead here. You have to be really careful. Vino and Clix are going to recognize that if they stay in the storm, what's going to happen, those other teams are going to have strong positions to give them even more of a problem later. But it seems like they want to continue to press the action here.
Kashoro, though, kind of could get caught in the mix here. Not sure if Clix and Veno have spotted him out just yet, but Kashoro, the moment that he tries to break through, that's when Clix sees small opportunity to try and bounce in here. But again, MDF, this is getting a little bit more drawn out than maybe what Clix and Veno were after.
Yeah, because Andalix and Sato were still here. They thought it was just a solo, but now they walk into almost a spider's web here. Sato and Andalix do have heals as well, so they can kind of sustain themselves for quite some time, but I'm not sure how much Andalix has to work with. Meanwhile, the GOATs of the region, the Kings of EU, the most consistent duo in the world when it comes to LAN performances in the recent years, are here.
Every view we pan over, it's like sharks in the water currently. The fact that Cammy and Seti have now decided to just stroll on over so casually, but they recognize there's no real openings for us to taste this one just yet. Let's prioritize our positioning and set, because they can always set up to intervene. Kashoro trying to do what he can to escape, but Vano's gonna shut that one down, and His first elimination goes to Clicks.
Fino's gonna be the first to claim it alongside Clicks here for a big elimination, and that's gonna set themselves off in the right pace here. Still, pay attention on the other side. Kanata and Cooper, completely opposite situation now. As we talked about them keeping their distance, Visual and Braids are gonna step up to the plate. Let's see if they can hit this swing at bat, but nothing just yet.
Something important to consider though, Visuals and Braids, this is our duo that came in at the final hour. Just last night, they discovered that they were going to be participating on the global stage. What's their prep time look like in comparison to everyone else? But more importantly still, Braids, he's trying to make sure that he brings the fight to Cooper and Kanata. They're not willing to fold. A couple of armored walls already expended from both sides as well. Kanata still able to find the shots that matter though. And him and Cooper doing a decent job at just trying to forcibly create space.
And this is not just any backup duo here. This is a team that is very much tenured and familiar with one another. They in fact have duoed with each other throughout the year. So again, not your regular backup team. This is a very, very scary team to be fighting right now, and a huge opportunity like this is not going to be taken for granted. And you can see the fact that they forced these great players to use their armored walls tells a lot. Let's jump in with Merstash and Malabuka here though, as the Storm Surge is effectively active now. Great place to be rotating through here at the Grim Gate, but I'm not too sure, even after being picked up, if Merstash is going to have a chance to really get back into the swing of things, as the Rift Island's already gone up, and we already know who's playing for it.
Peterbot and Poyo did not even wait a moment's notice. As soon as the Rift Island spawned in, these two were prepped and ready to go. Peterbot already taking advantage, putting some pressure onto teams that are just trying to rotate at the bottom of Rift Island. You know teams like to try and utilize some of those rifts along the bottom, but again, when you have a team like Peterbot and Poyo, and they're not the only ones lurking either, Trashy and Threats as well, making their presence known. But keep in mind, Poyo, Peterbot, they've got that reveal medallion.
Yeah, they're going to be able to scout them out in just a couple of moments here. So Trashy and Threats will have a big, big problem here. The hold up King and Phaser talking about problems are pushing down into the EU duo. Now, there's something that we know about King is that he's not someone you want to face in a box fight. What he's managed to do all throughout this week is instill fear into every duo. He has challenged players in the practice rooms back to back and has been the most successful.
The way that you're mentioning that, it's all about the solos, and this is a duo's game here, MDF. King trying to see if he can get a little bit of revenge damage onto Reason or Badil, but currently, Germans, they're the ones holding height, and King, he's gonna have to start burning through some of these small shield potions, and the real issue is once those shields crack, Badil, Reason, more than close enough to hear it, but they also need the damage, so the key is inevitable.
Yeah, both sides are extremely aware that this is a fight for Surge right now, and should King's team get a tag, the Surge is gonna flip. They are the team quite literally above them, and it doesn't really get much closer than this, and this is the most opportunistic time for King to take down a duo here. But Reason, there it is. Opportunities start to shift here. Reason and Badil now. Pressure starts to loom on them.
Craziest part to think about too is that they've still got to watch their backs because Rift Island just lurking in the distance, slightly higher elevation than themselves. Peterbot, Poyo, they were definitely trying to see if they could track down anybody for some additional tags, knocks, elims, ideally, but one of these teams has got to get a go on here, MDF. They can't afford to just sit idle. It's either fight or get eliminated.
Here it comes. I'm seeing two shots coming from both sides. Reason goes for it first. Vadiel on the other side doing an excellent job, but a trade comes out. King's weak, and he's going to be the first to fall. Reason and Vadiel come out on top, and even then, it's just enough to stay alive for now.
Crazy though when you think about how many teams are getting caught inside of these box fights inside of the Storm itself. Merstash, Malabuka, they're just on a recovery tour currently, and it's incredible to think that they're still 156 above that damage threshold despite that hiccup of Malabuka having to make the reboot van play in the first place. Wax and Ping though, they seem like they're primed and interested potentially, but instead it's just going to be heading to the top of Rift Island. Malabuka might get faced though, he wants more damage.
Little does he know, though, there is Trashy and Threats up here. Team Xset right now, still lurking nearby. I'm very curious as to why they haven't gone yet. And we might just find out here soon if they end up opening the box and taking fire, but no, Malibuca takes flight first. He's gonna get pretty far off. Will it be enough,
no
Taco?
way.
It's not looking like the math is gonna math here, as Malibuca is gonna be the first to fall. He tries to get as far as possible. Murstache will have to land on him and save him now.
The problem, though, is that we're looking at 2 tick zones currently. Monster, Murstache, he can try his best effort, but I fear he might meet a similar fate, because even if he makes it into this next edge of zone, he's still gonna have to deal with all the teams that are already based up, situated, and ready to take advantage of the players that are late straggling in.
Take a look at this refresh from Vino and Clicks now, as they managed to find themselves a little bit of a cachet from some leftover action between Casper and Prism. Prism now not being in this fight. And still, you have OCE's Damo and Resigns almost on this warpath with them, continuing to be that thorn in their side, if you will, for lack of a better phrase. But back on over to the focus here as Clicks is looking for action here. Those are his walls. It's Acorn, it's Cold on the other side. A very scary team to go against. In the warm-up games yesterday, in the scrims, right, in our practice lobbies, they pulled off a incredible 16 eliminations just to show the lobby what they're capable of.
The real issue is just knowing that for Clicks and Benno, Clicks, he just needs some white heals. And you're not going to get that at this stage unless you're able to take down another team successfully. Murstache and Malibuca, though, have pulled off a miracle at this point. And it does seem, even though they're a little bit worse for wear, they're battered for sure, but they're still kicking, and that's all they need at this stage.
They do have big shields as well to work with. That headshot that he picks up right there is going to make a huge difference there as far as their survivability is concerned. Major eliminations are happening, though, as we're covering the action here. One of those, it's Peterbot and Boyle staying active here. Down goes Chief from the high ground there. And they are doing what we expect of them. Very healthy, extremely material capped, and now picking up points. That's a runaway train potentially starting to take form.
Meanwhile, other teams like Huddy and Kovacs just trying to see if they can find an angle. Yuma Rise under a little bit of duress here, but it's back to Clicks. Benno trying to see if they can finagle their way out of this awkward position that they found themselves in, boxed up right next to Acorn and Cold. But again, Acorn Cold, they've got decent amount of materials to work with. More importantly still, though, I think that they are certainly willing to jump into a fight if it calls for it.
Oh yeah, yesterday has absolutely proven that they can take on any team without a problem. Talk about good teams that are still standing right now, teams that we've been kind of following this story. Victor V and Paper. Paper a little worse for wear. Seems like a bad peek's gonna go ahead and put him on the backside of this engagement here. And Vino facing the struggles of taking a lot of damage here as well, and not being able to recover now as they don't have whites.
Still has a couple of flow berries, but again, will that really be enough? Queasy, Thomas HD now starting to surface as well near their area. Ritual, though, takes some big tags, left that wall open just a moment too long. But Ritual, free, come on, coming out of Doomstad. They gotta be dealing with Epic Well and most early on. The fact that this duo already has 3 elims is rather impressive, but Malibuca as well, still holding his own. Shari's got a little bit of an angle peak advantage, so Malibuca's gonna look to try and see if he can find a more aggressive push from underneath. Meanwhile, Murstache, again, just trying to make sure he doesn't take another tick from the storm, but it's too little too late. Just barely makes it in. At least Malibuca can go for the revive.
You know, all things considering, he'll have more HP when he stands up than he did when he went down, so
Fair.
it's not all too bad here, but it is definitely time lost. The surge is active. They need to find a couple tags. Into the box they go. Back behind him is another duo as well, and if he doesn't hit this shot, he's going to be sent back to the lobby, and he hits the one that matters. Malibuca and Murstache are clawing their way out of this hole here, and unfortunately, it might not be enough here. It's so close.
Malibuca is doing everything in his power, but I fear they have finally met their end. Zero business making it that far in the first place, though, but that is the kind of power that Malibuca and Murstache can bring.
Well, here's a couple things to celebrate. Placement points has been reached. We are inside the top 25. Anyone alive now is going to start to be rewarded with more and more points. This is where things start to almost compound for you, so you want to stay up. Vino is down right now. Clicks has a very important decision to make here. Do you save your best mate or let him get sent back to the lobby so you can just focus in now Seems like he wants to go for the save. Armored Wall's going to be the saving grace here for a moment, though. Instead, Vino makes the call. Leave me. Continue to play the game here.
Veno knew there was just way too much pressure coming from the other side of that wall. A fully intact duo, and that duo being Queasy and Thomas HD. There's just no realistic opportunity for Clix to bring that one back. But Queasy, he's actually looking a little hurt here. He might have been desperate at that point, and Clix finds himself in a similar situation. Only has small shield potions to rely on, 2 below. When it comes to the damage threshold, he's got to make a move, and he's got to do it now. But I don't think anybody's giving him an opening.
Well, he's still inside the top 20 now. The more teams that fall, this would be excellent for Clix here. He just has to hold on a little bit longer. And he is doing just that. A little bit of a zone pull towards his side, more or less. But High Ground has Cammy and Seti looking from up above, and it has never looked better for this duo.
Kadu and Sia having already been eliminated. And again, reconvening with Clix's
oh my god
POV, but Clix
wow.
is just crazy with the movement. The fact that he managed to escape.
Still alive. He's clutching. Almost a top 15 now, and he's inside the top 15. Could he make a top 10? It's so close, and down he goes to the hands of Peterbot. He takes him down. Peterbot is also a solo.
It could have been anybody in this circumstance, but of course it had to be Peterbot. But take a look at the high ground. Chap and Teeny. And they're looking for even more still. 5 eliminations already built up here, Monster. And they've got a really strong grasp on this high ground.
What an incredible view for Chapentini. This is coming off the mountain here. Seti seems to have lost his teammate now. Has to do this on his own here. But still, anything can happen. But Mustn't Epic World inside the box, inside the lane. He's throwing armored walls down. That's going to buy him a little bit of time. Excellent plays here from Seti. No time to play with this storm, though. He just cannot afford it.
Seti's doing everything he can to try and scale his way up this mountain face, but things are just going to get all the more vicious the higher he climbs. The more pressure he might encounter. Muzz is going to find himself in a situation. Peterbot goes huge there though off the Seti.
8 eliminations now for Peterbot and Boyo here. Peterbot still going, nearly finding another one there. Just moments away now from a top 5 here. Can he do it as a solo? He's getting spotted out though. Armor wall comes down. Another weak player in front of him. Oh, he didn't get a tag. Never counted out. It was so close. But now the focus comes into who will win game 1. We have just 4 teams remaining. Make that 5. Acorn and Cole find another.
Duke simply too savage, losing his duo Sphinx there to Peterbot, but Acorn and Cole, the fact that they are still intact. 5 armored walls as well to work with here for Acorn. Chapentini, though, they're trying to see if they can look for an opportunity to collapse. Pico, Flixie off in the distance as well. The mid-ground starting to really pile up here.
Well, look at this. High ground starting to run out of material. Vico and Flixie, this is the pick for me. The team that I knew, you leave them uncontested. They're just going to put in dangerous work here on the field. And it is starting to shape up. Acorn and Cold and a saving grace on the low ground. On the outskirts, putting pressure onto Japan's best. Rise and Yuma, who also has 7 eliminations. Yuma sends up against Acorn. Finds a beautiful tag there. Loses his teammate, though. Finds another exchange. It's back and forth here. Anything can still happen.
All these teams scurrying into the low ground, though. They're sabotaging each other. Acorn's gonna go down. Yuma still standing tall. But now, Chapentini from the high ground, they're just gonna collapse. And that is just another elimination to add to the count. Vico Flixie versus Chapentini. It's a battle of Europe.
A battle for the ages indeed here. 5 eliminations still for Teeny and Chap. Things are starting to rack up. Teeny, the first to go down. Chap's also weak. They jump in. They close the game. And game number 1, the victory royale will go to Chap and Teeny.
Could it be more deserved? The way that they held down that high ground, MDF, you could tell that they were aiming exclusively for the victory royale at this stage. But granted, you have to keep in mind, there's somebody on the ground that can help out even more so.
Dallas, would you please give it up for your Game 1 winners? Chapentini, do you want to step up for me here, fellas? So everyone can see your glorious faces. Let's kick things off here. What a great start. I mean, you guys, obviously, Game 1, a lot of pressure, bit of waiting around the beginning, but in front of these fans. To walk us through the end game, how did things pan out for you guys?
Good. We're the best players, so it's easy.
Best players, easy. I mean, I love the confidence there. For you as well there, I mean, your teammate here, you guys worked to get Biko and Flixie in the last seconds there. You had the high ground. Is that what really counted there?
Of course, we're only playing for height, and that's how you win games. That's it.
Coming into this competition, obviously a lot of expectations, things that might happen. Did things pan out in that first game as you thought they might, or was it very different?
It was different. We took forecast, and then we just played out.
Those forecast towers are playing very pivotal in this as well. How important are those in the rest of this competition with 11 games left to go?
The most important thing, if you get that, you win the game. It's easy.
Would you please give it up one more time for your Game 1 winners? Ciabattini, everyone! Oh, things have started beautifully here. There is loads more coming your way here, courtesy of the FNCS Global Championships 2024. A short break from us here on the broadcast, but do not go anywhere. Stay exactly where you are. There's loads more coming your way very, very soon.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the FNCS game number 1. Chap and TD find themselves the victory royale, and that first game was absolutely crazy to see these guys come out on top and to get that interview, right? Hey, we're the best team. You just get forecast. You get this. You got. We're the best team. That's it. That's all that matters.
I mean, if you look at Major 2, Major 3, when they both got second place in both majors, yeah, they're kind of one of the best teams right now. Yeah. And showing up today and showing up early as well, eliminating Agers and Rise right off the bat.
Yeah, really, really interesting after this first game because we were sort of sort of talking about it going into the first game. Where are these guys going to land? What's their strategy going to look like? We didn't quite know, and now we get a little bit of an insight into what that's going to look like. It seems like they're really prioritizing that forecast tower. Another thing that we focused on at the beginning of the show. They want that forecast tower, and that's the reason why they're able to get height right here. You saw Cammy and Seti sort of shaping up to try and take height and holding it in that sort of 8-9 zone, but they didn't get that next zone. So Teeny and Chap took the opportunity really well because they knew where it was going.
Also, to be able to hold height for as long as they did, all the way from zone 9. Once again, the forecast tower allowing them to know where to move that height and use or save up those much needed mats towards the end of the game there. Absolutely phenomenal. What a great way to start the competition.
Just again, cold. They're just ice cold, chilling there. Yeah, we're the best. Not a big deal. Man, that is a statement game out of game number 1. But there were just so many things that transpired in game number 1. Just so many solo performances that all took place. I mean, we saw there for a moment, even Rise and Yuma making a top 3. 8 eliminations? That's terrifying. We can't let that happen.
Yes, we can, and they did. And I want to see it happen again. Rise and Yuma representing Asia right now, showing that, oh yeah, it's NA versus EU. You got to watch out for Asia as well.
Yeah, these guys are really looking good right there. 8 eliminations clutching up there in the end in those final few moments. The crowd erupted as soon as they got that final elimination. Wasn't quite enough to get into that first or second, but they've got to be happy with that start, particularly on this stage.
That's right. I want to highlight Peterbot, man. I don't know what Peterbot is about, but I do now. In those final moments, you know, Pollo goes down and you have the solo clutch, and he pulled it off.
And for Peterbot to take down Clicks in game number 1, you know that there was definitely some emotions going high right there. But Peterbot, if he is down into a solo, I mean, he's honestly a duo as a single player.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, both of these players have the ability to do this, solo clutches. And in big events like this, 12-game formats, these solo clutches are going to be so vital in getting these guys into a really nice position. I must say, this burst assault rifle ex Peterbot is a crazy combo. It shouldn't be allowed because he's so good with that. And then even towards these endgame situations, taking out Seti there at that final few moments just to keep himself going. Of course, too little, too late towards the end, but really great start from him.
I mean, their strategy is just so clean from the start. Landing rep, getting the coin, getting the mythic AR, going over to the forecast tower, and then getting the Rift Island as well in that game, allowing them to just have a little bit of height, a little bit more mats, and more importantly, getting that mod weapon bench so that I saw Pollo kind of modifying his weapons there, getting exactly what they wanted so that they were prepared for the end game.
I love seeing their 3rd place. Eco, Flixie, a 2nd place. They didn't even need the Victory Royale, right? The fact that they made it to 2nd place, you've already done too much. You've already let them get too far in the game.
Yeah, I mean, they started off so strong as well, getting eliminations onto Shadow and Virgo by zone 1 there. And then, of course, just dominating the low ground as we know them to do.
Yeah, exactly. Another really solid performance of these guys. We've seen them do it previously. This is exactly what we expected. Low to mid ground, finding those eliminations. And towards the end there, where it was the final 2v2, it was kind of like Major 3, where it was 2 of the best teams in EU going head-to-head. Of course, 2 different, very different play styles. These guys are not necessarily going to be going for height every single game. But of course, what I noticed there was a little bit of a change in rotation. They went towards the north side of their drop spot. So interesting to see whether that's going to change throughout the day, whether the forecast tower fight's going to affect that. But really nice start from these guys.
That's right, guys. I know you want more action. We can talk more about this, but let's just jump back into it. MDF, the best taco. Back over to you.
Yeah, that was a very intense game. Obviously, as we're coming out, you know, I couldn't even believe it. I almost, you know, just threw the whole mic off the headset. I was really into it for a second there.
Yeah, and the craziest part still, of course, we have 2 EU teams duking it out to close off our first lobby here. And match number 2 is ready to go.
The battle bus has left the station. Match number 2 is here. What do we have in store for us this game? I mean, last one was surely a surprise with the Middle Eastern teams taking a top 10 position. One Asia team up there as well. And of course, those that you expect. The best from NA, some of the greats from EU.
Yeah, and Acorn and Cold, they haven't necessarily had an easy time about it either here at Brutal Beachhead. You know, you get like the soft contest coming out of Andalix and Sato, and this could prove to be very difficult though for Andalix and Sato, because you can tell the commitment is there, but if they want to take this fight to Acorn and Cold, it could be a really difficult one to actually close out in quick fashion.
We have to give all credit to not only Clix and Vino for Clix's performance to stay alive and secure a top 15, but Damo and Resigns, who found even more placement points, ending just closer to that top 10. So a very impressive performance for teams that were contested that game, actually. When you start to do the math on that, that is almost unprecedented.
Well, it was almost like Damo and Resigns were trailing Clix and Veno the entire match, and if they hadn't actually stumbled upon Kishuro as a solo, I almost wonder if things could have maybe gone a little differently there, because that's what really got them tied up into a rough position. But again, hindsight's always 20/20. Currently, we are focused on the now. Chap and Teeny lingering around the Nitrodrome, but Kanata and Cooper close by means that all they can really look for here is just trying to prioritize their mat count.
Yeah, we do know Kanata and Cooper like to rotate closer to Agers and Rise, who was taken out pretty early last game, so they didn't get to secure that fight, and they found themselves in a completely different battle up against Visual and Braids, and it really didn't go their way. Shortly afterwards, Braids ended up falling to Epic Whale Muzz, so pretty interesting, you know, zone dynamics starting to take shape here, and that's really part of the high level of Fortnite. Game to game, micro adjusting, right? They all know what went well, what went wrong, and it's about adjusting in the real time. But here's Seiyun, here's Kadu against Casper and Prism. Little stands off here, so it seems like this game, similar to match one, is gonna kind of take its time rolling into the eliminations.
Yeah, Janice almost seemingly happy about the fact that these teams kind of caught wind of each other, because that allowed for him to just slip on by, head on out, a red line rig, make sure that he doesn't get caught in the mix. He's clearly just trying to make a play for that Reboot Max. I didn't see Fixie anywhere near, so almost makes you wonder at the same time. It's going to be a difficult situation for a lot of these teams.
Here's Cammy and Seti. They have angles, they have a little bit of high ground. Meanwhile, King and Phaser getting active right now just outside the Rebels' roost. What is happening here? They seem to be finding their groove right now. It's Visual and Braids once again who are giving some of these duos a really difficult time, making them all second guess whether or not they should be sticking around and fighting them. So, you know, that's impressive.
Yeah, but this is also a really smart disengage from King and Phaser, recognizing the fact Sky Scroll still nearby as well. Rebels Roost just a little bit too poppin' for their interest at the moment, but even hanging around the underworld could pose some issues because they didn't stick around for the fight. Don't know how much surge damage they've actually been able to accrue at this stage, and once we start to get into that mid-game rotation aspect, that we already saw a handful of teams, even some of the teams that you wouldn't necessarily anticipate to struggle with their surge damage, having issues.
Very interesting. We get to catch up with Batman, Booga, and Rapid here at the Grim Gate. This has been their drop spot for quite some time, coming out of Major 3, of course, with an excellent performance. You know, if you start looking at the paper trail of Rapid and Batman, Booga, everyone's marking them up towards the top 3 as far as the NA teams are concerned. And talking about top 3, it wouldn't be one without Cold and Acorn. They're just putting teams down. This time, they do finish the fight up against Andalex and Sato. They don't let them escape.
But now something that Sato and Andalex are potentially going to have to start considering is if this keeps going in favor of Acorn and Cold, if they continue to take the fight to them, do you switch for day 2? But I think we still got a few more lobbies to work through before that really starts to become the real question mark here. For Stash Malibuca, though, starting off somewhat on the right foot here at Restored Reels. One elimination already. Curious if one of those is onto either Alex or Worthy.
Yeah, something happened there, but Bolt and Bryce are in a fight right now. Little build-off happening here. This is a pretty intensive early game fight for, given the situation, a Zone 1 Sky base going on here. This is going to be a full-on reset if it doesn't end fast. It's up again, Vico and Flixie. You know, obviously, our second place coming out of game 1. Very much fired up, very much confident.
Bryce and Bolt are not going to fold here, though. The forecast tower, the weapons bunker that spawns nearby Dupenhausen, where Bolt and Bryce like to land. And this is something that, you know, they were willing to contest Reet and Ritual for when it was Reet and Ritual at Rickless Railway. So now Vico Flixie having taken over that position. And it's funny because you asked Vico in the player lounge last night, hey, what do you think about the forecast tower? He's like, that's my forecast tower. You ask any of these players who are actually trying to contest, they'll always tell you the same thing. That's my forecast. And yet, Vico, Flixie, they find themselves stuck because Bryce and Bolt either need to get eliminated or forced out here whoever controls the NPC is going to win.
It's pretty incredible. You got to talk with Vico. I got to talk with Bolts and Bolts' brother, and they had nothing but positive things to say, and honestly confidence about the fact that this is their forecast tower, and he's here, and he believes that paired up with Bryce, they are a perfect combination. So very interesting to see that both teams very much feel like they're entitled to this drop. Vico and Flixie seem to be the first, of course, boots on the ground here. They're going to secure the card, which means they have everything that they need here to go ahead and be the one to get the first dibs. But Bolts comes in, takes down Flixie from up above. Whose tower is it?
Vico might have that key card, but how long can he really hold on to it? He's trying to just get out of dodge at this point, creating as much space as possible. But you know Bolts and Bryce, now that they've isolated Vico by forcibly eliminating Flixie, they're going to chase him. They do not want to let him escape with that forecast key card.
And this is not just an elimination. This is not just a player. That is someone who holds the keys to every single storm for the remainder of this game. It is worth so much more than just a set of points. Bolts and Bryce have to think long and hard, and they end up easing off for a second, but it's because Clone and Kromsu was waiting for them, and Bryce is going to be one of the first to fall now as he gets ambushed.
This was almost like an unexpected gift. Clone and Kromsu were situated exclusively for the bunker, and yet when Vico tried to escape because he recognized the fact, hey, I've just got to play for the reboot. I just need to get Flixie back into this game. We'll deal with the forecast later. Kromsu and Clone, dude, too slick with it.
That was just dirty right there to get boxed up. But look, Bolts has the card, so he actually ends up finding Vico potentially here, or no?
Vico
Maybe
dropped it when he was running.
He ends up dropping it just so that he doesn't, bring that heat with him. So very, very interesting turn of events here.
But sure, you might have forecast secured, but at what cost? Because realistically, if I'm Kromsu, I'm not letting you escape. And that's the thing, Vico knew that there was no reason for him to try to hold on. He did not have the materials to feasibly escape unless he gave up that key card.
I actually love that we got to see him drop the key card as well, right? Just saying, hey, look, you can have it, man. My hands are in the air. White flag is waved. Go ahead, take it. And he plays for another day. That just really shows you what this tournament means, right? That's not an interaction you'll have in any regular game, right? There's just something so prestigious about the Fortnite Global Championship that even the players give respect to one another like that. It's incredible to watch.
Wow, this is looking like a menacing situation building up currently, though. Clicks, Venno, Acorn, Gold, Chap, Teeny, Gammy,
oh my gosh.
I don't think we could ask for anything better at this stage, but fact of the matter is, all these teams are just fixated on one thing, and it's likely the weapons bunker.
You hear it. It's opening up right now, and Clicks and Vino the first to fold as they recognize, hey, there are 4 teams here. This is not the greatest idea. They double back to the campfire. They'll get their chance at the bunker, right? They'll be able to pick up some scraps, get their attachments. But first, sit things out, let things settle.
I like that flyby, though, Janus and Pixie, so it looks like Janus's rescue mission was a success. He was able to make his way towards a reboot ban, but again, you have to start to wonder what kind of damage was he able to collect prior to losing Pixie. And now, Reckless Railway is heating up one more time because Vico doubled back, brought Flixie into it, but now Shadow and Virgo trying to see if they can pose a threat.
Listen, Shadow, someone I've known for a long time. I've followed his career closely. He is a very, very scary player once he starts to get situated. Game 1 jitters are out of the way now. Him and Virgo have been nothing but successful as a duo here. But wait a second. Vico and Flixie, as we know, again, are EU's best right now. Clearly some of the strongest fighters on the region. And then you have OCE's Danith and Tinka, right? Champions of OCE lurking nearby, seeing what's happening here. Trying to put OCE's stamp on it.
But Vico and Flixie, I mean, we're talking about EU Major 3 winners at this stage, right? You've got to imagine the level of confidence. Even when you talk to either of them, they are just reeking of confidence, essentially, and for good measure, because Vico, Flixie, they've been successful, despite the fact that Vico was incredibly low on material count as well. He's still able to stave off Shadow and Virgo, and that is not an easy feat by any means.
Jumping to the other side here, Dukes and Sphinx trying to figure out what's happening down here south on the zone as things are just starting to develop. Clearly shots are coming in from teams in the distance. Meanwhile, Queasy has that high ground. Chap though lurking up, trying to see how he can possibly get involved. Teeny already sitting on the base for a moment there, you couldn't even tell.
I don't even know if it's Queasy that's in danger nearly as much as what it might be Thomas HD when he tries to work his way back towards the surf base he has with Queasy. You can hear the Monarch pistol, shots flying out overhead. Thomas making his way back towards him, but he scouted it out. Managed to throw up a wall just in the nick of time. Queasy also on high alert now. But Chap, Teeny, they've made enough noise. Other teams in the distance actually trying to take side shots at them.
Gotta respect Thomas HD's ability to not only see them and react faster than they can land a shot on him, but to also get up to high ground.
Nothing too.
Before it was too late. And look, they're gonna just go ahead and get off of there. They're like, wait, that team, they wanna fight? No, we don't need that. They give them the respect. They back off the restored reels. They play for center zone now. And this is a very, very good early rotate to go ahead and find a new position here, find some new real estate, if you will. Meanwhile, at the Grim Gate, we have another Rise in Yuma coming out of Asia, representing here last game. Phenomenal performance, ending up towards the top, 8 eliminations as well. This game off to a hot start with 2. Look, we look away, we blink for a second, and the double headshot onto Phaser.
The lineup is just nasty. You can just tell that Thomas HD and Queasy probably ecstatic about that loot llama they essentially just picked up from the knock.
Yeah, I don't even know if they want to cross over to pick up the loot. At this point, it would end up being all too risky with King nearby, but Chap and Teeny haven't stopped their pursuits onto different duos. I'm feeling like maybe they're not getting enough tags in these fights.
Can also be so disorienting to other teams in the lobby when you're dealing with the likes of Chap and Teeny, because they're just barreling down onto anybody that they encounter. They could care less about the caliber of player that they are dealing with in the process. All they want at the end of the day is the points from the eliminations and to clear out the space to make sure that their rotations maintain their smoothness. But Yanis, layer below, Chap and Teeny are currently boxed up, and they are not the only ones. Pramsu, Clone, lurking overhead, Persa, Ed as well. Close enough that they could definitely tango if they wanted to.
Chapentini, 130 below. Just mentioned that they're not finding the tag, and it's very clear, regardless of how many teams they've managed to fight, it just hasn't been successful. But this, so far, looking like the best here. Double armor walls come out. That's going to slow down all of their momentum here. And if I'm being honest, I think they have to keep pursuing it, find a new angle, do something else. They can't afford to stop at this point. Teeny's got a new angle here. He's behind Pixie now. The other duo, basically, that's there is Ed and Persa, who are also very, very weak. It's just not looking good for the Brazilian duos. Not looking too good for EU's Jonas.
But every
behind
time
him, Chap's hurt. Back against the wall, he needs to find the one, and it's so close, but he's gonna be the first to fall.
Pixie kind of reminding Chap, hey, we're familiar with each other for a reason, but Giannis and Pixie, they just had too much of an advantage, knowing that the Storm Surge was trickling in, essentially. It just put too much pressure onto Chap and Teeny. They were just taking recklessly aggressive fights, not methodically calculated ones.
Reminder, Falcons, Teeny, and Chap were your first place team coming into match number 2. They are now down and out, effectively opening up the leaderboards for other teams to start to climb on up now.
Casper and Prism as well. I think that this is a duo that has really caught some pretty big attention given their recent performances in EU. Casper as well finds FKS in that flashback moment, but Janice, Pixie especially is in a really rough position, trying to deal with Quanti at the same time as well, but these two know they've just got to disengage. They need an opportunity to get that neck hit off, so Pixie will find a moment here, but Quanti still good pose, pretty big threat. all depends on how Janus and Pixie actually choose to leave from this current position.
Take a look at Epic Way on Muzz right now. Also below the Storm Surge here, they just need a little tag. Bring your focus down to that bottom right, that map. We're in zone 5 out of 12, right? So we're getting into the late part of the game. Things are going to get to real small with the circle, and it's only going to become more and more difficult if you're one of those teams that don't have heals.
The problem is when you're also a team like Muzz and Epic, you had the shield, you had the white heals, but you're losing all of it because you're just underneath that Storm Surge. Finally, they'll manage to catch a break in the form of damage. And they'll look to try and see what they can scavenge here at the top of Rift Island. Surprisingly enough, mostly undisturbed.
Little update there as a down from FKS fully eliminated, so 10th place is out, first place is out. Cammy and Seti not looking too great right here. Below the damage threshold as well. Again, what that means is that lightning bolt is going to start coming down from the sky. They're going to start losing 25 HP over the course of time. Periodically, it'll start to add up. Flixie and Vico, this is why they're fighting all the teams, because they need to. Otherwise, they will be sent back to the lobby for not doing enough damage. Here it is. Vico gets slammed in on from 2 angles, but Cammy gets crushed by a devastating shot. Vico hits the one that he needs to. Meanwhile, Rise and Yuma jump into the mix here. This is our team in the lead here. Vico, though, is so good that he is putting up numbers up against every single region right now. It's still defending for his teammate.
He's just trying to make sure that he can throw Flixie into a safe position. Revive is clearly on his mind. Armored walls are going to be sent out. Yuma, Rise, they're hoping that they can try to collapse, but I fear the moment has left them. Vico doing so much when it mattered most to hold his ground. And sure enough, the revive is a success. Flixie has been brought back into this battle, and that's going to cause Rise and Yuma to reconsider whether they actually want to take this engagement.
And that was our current first and third, or second place teams basically to be